Well, hello there, happy innovators. How you guys been? Long time no podcast once again, I know. Probably wondering, whatever happened to that guy? That Bostwick guy who used to do that podcast called the Singularity Podcast? Yeah, I'm still here, believe it or not. Panic ye not. Actually, for the past maybe month or so, I've been trying to think of a topic to hit for a new podcast, and nothing was coming to me, and I kind of thought to myself, you know what, I'm not going to kind of push it. I'm not going to make it happen. I'm just going to kind of wait and see if something comes up and, I feel inspired to talk about something, and you know what, it wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. And then about a couple weeks ago, my wife and I had to do some unplanned traveling, and we were gone for probably about 2 weeks. So, and it wasn't a vacation, okay? It was actually pretty serious business, but I won't talk about that in this podcast today. And because it's a long story, and it's still not something that's completely over yet, so I'm gonna have to wait a little bit to tell you what I've been up to for the past couple weeks. But suffice it to say that I was very busy anyway. I wasn't home. I was far from home, so I didn't really have any real opportunity to sit down and make a podcast. But when the time goes by, it really kind of starts to eat at me a little bit that I haven't done a podcast. And I suppose it's kind of redundant to keep starting off my podcast talking about how hard it is to make a podcast or come up with something to talk about, or sorry I haven't been around, or any of that stuff. But I don't know, I'm just gonna go with the flow today. So I hope that you'll bear with me, and I'll try to come up with something to talk about. We'll see if I can eke out a podcast here. I guess this podcast today could be the podcast that was about absolutely nothing, because I have nothing to talk about offhand. I guess one of the things that I would want to talk about, if any, or maybe that I should talk about, is the situation with Joe Rogan and Neil Young. That whole thing, the controversy about Neil Young pulling his music from Spotify if Joe Rogan wasn't pulled from Spotify, an ultimatum with the platform. And I like everybody else, I hear the stories and one side of the argument, and then you hear the other, and you don't really know what to make of any of it, and you don't even really know how much of it is true or real. I know I was watching Bill Burr talking about it, or listening to Bill Burr talk about it. Bill Burr's podcast. He was talking about it and how he thinks that Spotify making the claim, or the supporters of Neil Young, I should say, and his ilk, dropping off of Spotify has cost the platform billions of dollars, being like total bullshit, and I kind of feel the same way. I think it might matter on some level if Neil Young is no longer available on Spotify, but if I want to listen to Neil Young and it's not on Spotify, I'll just go listen to it somewhere else, and I'm not a huge Neil Young fan, really. I've thought about that because a lot of the musicians that I came up with when I was younger, and even some of my older family members, they were pretty big fans of Neil Young, and they always kind of presented Neil Young to me as if he was somebody that was very important, that his music was very important music to listen to. And I gotta say, he's got a handful of songs that I really like. I think they're really great, but I'm not one of those people that bought his albums, and I wasn't one of those people that would say that was influenced by him at all. He was always kind of off in the periphery, in my musical library in my brain. I don't really think about it too much. And, he had this song called Sugar Mountain that was really great. And, he's got great songs. He's got some great songs. He does. And I also remember he did this song for the soundtrack on that movie Philadelphia. It was the last piece of music in the film, at the very end of the film, and kind of a somber song, a little like sad, and the footage was sad, and the ending of the story was sad, So, I have this kind of like this imagery and this music from the end of that movie, like, burned into my memory. And I remember it being, powerful, kind of sadness, it's good. It worked well with the film, not one of my favorite films or anything like that, but, I have made some music for film in my life, and I pay attention, I think, a little bit more to that stuff now, when I'm watching films. I guess just by osmosis that would happen. But I am a bigger fan, I think, of Joe Rogan than I am of Neil Young. And I find it really strange that, this is one of those things that's popping up right now. At least from my perspective, I find it strange because Joe Rogan is really kind of a juggernaut. He's a force of nature. And he's somebody that's transformed. Okay, I guess that would be the word. He's transformed culture, maybe as much or even more so than any rock bands are currently, or even any politicians are. Joe Rogan has kind of found that sweet spot in between the people and the message, and he's kind of, I suppose, you would have to be that kind of person like him, who's like he's a accomplished actor, a fighter. I mean, he's done all kinds of things. He's a stand-up comic. He's done a lot. He works hard. He covers a lot of territory, so it would make sense that eventually, he was going to kind of like find that magic spot. He's going to hit the button on something and start a whole new thing. He's one of those kinds of personalities, one of those kinds of people, and he's not the only one. There are other people that are like that, where, they're so broad in their thinking and what they enjoy doing that they, eventually stumble onto something that really hasn't been done the way that they're doing it before. And podcasting, I gotta tell you, Joe Rogan, hands down, he's the king of the podcast. Can you imagine? He got some kind of deal with Spotify for like $100 million. Think about that. To do something that's, not incredibly distant from what I'm doing right now. Okay, the notion of making like that kind of money for doing this kind of thing is like mind-blowing. Now, I'm not making the claim that I'm good enough to do that, because I know for sure that I'm not, and not many are. It's really difficult to do it the way that Joe Rogan has done it from the beginning, from the ground up. He's kind of established, by default, the model for all other podcasters to follow. And if you notice, which I do notice, especially with a lot of the podcasters that are, putting videos up on YouTube of their podcast, a lot of them are copying the Joe Rogan format. They have a podcast, and they have a guy off camera who will research topics as they're talking, find it for them so they can call it up onto a screen and, make an analysis of whatever, you see it all the time now. But, Joe Rogan started all of that stuff. And I don't always agree with Joe Rogan. I don't. I do a lot of the time though, and I think he's actually very funny. I'm not a big fan of his stand-up comedy, but I think that he is actually probably a really funny person to hang around. Like if you were friends with Joe Rogan and you went camping with him, it would probably be pretty funny hanging out with that guy. But like I said, I'm not like a huge fan of his stand-up. I wasn't a huge fan of his acting. I didn't even really watch that show he was on. I don't even remember what it was called now. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I forget. But it's not important. The point is that I am a fan of him talking and who he talks to and, the questions that he asks. I mean, I gotta be honest with you, really. I've been doing this podcast for a couple years now, and I wish I had a situation like that, where I was interviewing people and I had a little bit of a budget, with a couple microphones and a camera. I wish I had it together enough to do something like that, but you would really have to devote so much time to building something like that. And what's interesting too is like, it's one thing for me, a guy like me, to just kind of copy what's already been done by Joe Rogan. I mean, that's not that difficult to do, but consider, this guy started from the ground up. I mean, he really started at zero, and he just started talking into a microphone on camera and interviewing his friends. And, it became what it has become. $100 million he's paid to do this now. $100 million. Think about how much money that actually is. That's insane. I don't even think I would know what to do with $100 million, But, so here we are now at this crossroads, with Neil Young and Joe Rogan. They're kind of like, duking it out, metaphorically, and I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit like when I look at the situation, okay, when I look at it from both sides, I gotta say I'm a little bit disappointed with Neil Young. It's like, it's kind of weird. Like Neil Young is, at least in my mind, is supposed to be kind of like standing up for like the little guy, not like taking on the man, like on behalf of the little guy. That's what my impression of him is. But I think that that's wrong. I think he's proving me wrong by the situation that we're in. I'm watching it play out and I'm thinking to myself, you're like a rock star. Like you're supposed to kind of be taking the side, at least in my mind, of the counterculture kind of approach. That's what I'm thinking, okay? But then I remember that Neil Young was the one who was pushing for the Sonus, I think it was called, this kind of like answer to the MP3, because he was so disappointed with losing. Well, okay, hold on. The claim from Neil Young that I remember was that he was disappointed that the quality of the music that people were getting when they listened to an MP3 is really bad quality. Okay, so he was replacing it with this new technology that, of course, costs money. And I kind of read that whole situation like, being a small-time musician, songwriter, whatever myself, I kind of saw that as, this is just another celebrity who's pissed off because he's not making the money that he used to make off of record sales. And I get that. I understand that. I wouldn't deny him or, begrudge him the opportunity to redress that grievance, okay? Because it's a real one. it's one that I disagree with, but it is a real grievance. To be used to a lifestyle as a singer-songwriter where you make millions of dollars off of your music. Think about it. You write a song, okay? Like Neil Young has written several, and for many, many years after you wrote it, it's still making you millions of dollars. We're talking millions of dollars for those songs, right? And then along comes something like the internet, and along comes, the technological changes like an MP3 or a WAV file or whatever, and, it's like, it does suck, I'm sure, to be an artist like Neil Young and to lose that stream of income, okay? But unfortunately, times change and things change. And, maybe the lesson learned is that money that you were, getting all those years, and those millions of dollars that you made off of those songs you wrote, maybe you should have saved some of it or something. You should have maybe counted on the fact that, like most things, what goes up must come down. Eventually, the music that you've made would, not be collecting millions of dollars in perpetuity. Maybe. Okay? Now, he still has the right to be upset, and he still has the right to protest that. But for me, okay, I kind of saw it as like a bummer, Neil Young is so worried about losing that money that he's trying to fight it, by opening up this other stream of revenue, this new, file sharing technology like Sonos. I think that's what it was called. So, I also will say this, that, this is just my personal opinion, okay? I'm not like an audiophile, I'm not one of those people that is like really, really uptight about the quality of the sounds I hear, it has to be pristine and crystal clear. No, that's not how it is for me. And the reason why is because music has never been like that for me. I had vinyl 8-track cassette tapes, and yeah, they had Dolby noise reduction, but that didn't do much. It's like the quality of the music that I was trading with my friends when I was young on cassette tapes, or CDs or whatever. It wasn't like pristine or something. It didn't matter. It's the Ramones, I just want to listen to, I want to be sedated. It doesn't have to be crystal clear and pristine. It could be, kind of rough around the edges. I don't care, as long as I get to hear the tune, So I've always kind of thought it was silly when people go, oh, the MP3 doesn't sound as good, as the WAV file, or it doesn't sound as good, and here's the quality difference, and they show you like the megahertz or some kind of shit like that, and it's like, you know what? I don't care about that. If I want to hear Strutter by Kiss, I don't care if it's like, high quality or something. I just want to hear the song, So I was not buying into the whole, the MP3 is garbage, and you must use this other form in order for it to be better, and the true representation of what happened in the studio. It's like, you know what, I make my own songs and listen to them, and I don't even care if it's an MP3. I don't care. It's my own song, and I'll just listen to it. That's all. It's a song. It's 3 or 5 minutes long or something, and it's over. Well, I guess in my case, it's not always the case. I do have some songs that are pretty long, and that. But it's like, the point is that, like, should we really get like totally like uptight about the quality and stuff like that of, the files that we're sharing with our friends, of great music that we found or whatever? It's just, to me, the whole thing is so arbitrary. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because there's so many platforms where you can put your music. And that's wonderful. So it doesn't matter if, one platform isn't as good as the other or something. It's still another platform for your music to be listened to on. And somebody will listen to it there. No matter how big or how small or however good the quality is or whatever. None of that really matters, especially to people who just like music. Like me. I just like music. I just want to hear the song, for crying out loud. It doesn't, why go through all that stuff, that bullshit, trying to discourage people from listening to your music because it's an MP3. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's short-sighted and it doesn't make any sense. It's, we should all of us, anybody who's ever written a song and presented it to the public, in the public domain, we should all be thanking our lucky stars that anybody gives a shit what we're doing. Like there's anybody listening to what we do. I mean, that's a miracle as far as I'm concerned. That anybody anywhere would care at all about anything I'm doing. I don't take it for granted because it's not to be taken for granted. And I don't care if it's Neil Young or U2 or me, at the bottom of the barrel. Like, it doesn't matter. You should be grateful that anyone cares at all. And then to boycott and, to pull your stuff away from the people who really want to listen to your music, that your fans, like the people who like your music, like to punish them because you're pissed at Joe Rogan or something or Spotify. It doesn't make any sense. What a foolish kind of attitude to take, especially, at least from my perspective. It's like, you're living in a mansion, dude. You've got more money than you can count. Why are you punishing your fans for a political something or whatever? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe you think that Neil Young is right. I don't know. I don't know. I think that he might be wrong. I think that it's foolish to do, but you know what, really, at the end of the day, honestly, I don't care. I don't really. I don't. I could devote some thought to it for, I don't know, a little while, I guess, like I am right now with this podcast, but at the end of the day, I don't really care if Neil Young's on Spotify. I don't care. I don't care who's on Spotify. And also too, I gotta say this, that as far as the Joe Rogan being accused of like misinformation or something, that's so it's pointless and kind of stupid to go after somebody for that. It's like sometimes people get it right and sometimes people get it wrong. We are all guilty of that. And if you are a person who sits down in front of a microphone like Joe Rogan does, and you talk for thousands of hours with hundreds of guests about millions of topics, at some point, in that 7, 8 year, 9 year, 10 year duration, you're probably gonna get some information wrong, okay? But like, who cares? Like, who are the people that are listening to Joe Rogan's podcast and making all their life decisions based on what Joe Rogan said? Or like one of his friends that he interviews on his podcast? Like, I'm not. I mean, I listen to his podcast and take it in, and a lot of the time it's entertaining, but it's not like guiding my life decisions. Is that what it's doing for you? Like when you need to make a major life decision, do you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast and, base your decision on like his beliefs or his attitudes? I would put dollars to donuts that there's probably not like like anybody doing that at all. It's like entertainment. That's all it is. And he may get political and stuff like that and talk about things, that offend people or something. So what? So what if you're offended? So what if it offends me? So what? It's a show. Like, just, it's not real life or something. It's a TV show, It's a different form, I guess, but it's still entertainment. That's all it is. So they're copying this attitude like, real lives are affected by the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't really believe that, I mean, he may have influenced some things, but, being responsible for the deaths of millions of people because he had an opinion about like COVID or something, or a mask or something, that's not real. That's not real. That doesn't happen. Because nobody cares that much about what anybody says, let alone Joe Rogan, At least that's my perspective, Like, I'm sure, maybe over the course of the past 3 years, maybe I said something that affected someone. Maybe they listened to what I said and it made them rethink something or reconsider something or introduced them to something. Maybe, maybe. So what? It's like, it's just me talking into a microphone, man. That's all it is. It's entertainment and I want you to be entertained, but, I don't want to like guide your life with my beliefs or something. I don't want to be like a cult leader, because that's not reality. That's not really how it works. That's not really how people work. I never watched the Johnny Carson show and like decided whether I was going to get married based on what Johnny Carson said. It's like, I watched other things too. And I didn't, I turned off Johnny Carson eventually and watched something else. And that didn't affect my life that much either, Now with MTV, okay, maybe that's a little bit different. I will admit. There was a lot of stuff I saw on MTV and a lot of things I still do see, like on videos with bands and groups, and especially the ones I really like, or the ones I really don't like, that kind of affect my decision making, okay, when it comes to making songs or something, but not really, not really. It might be swimming around in my brain somewhere, but it's not like, I heard a Greta Van Fleet album and I went immediately into my studio and like tried to do some kind of reaction to what they were doing. I mean, I listened to it, like this, don't like that, and I moved on. I mean, aren't you the same way? I would imagine that you probably are. You're like me. It's like, music is important, yes. I once had a friend who told me that, music is thoroughly unimportant. It has no importance, no consequence. It's just a thing people do for fun. And I don't agree with that. I do think that the music that we hear and that we take in, it has an effect on our senses. I think I did a podcast about it called Custody of the Senses. Yeah, Custody of the Senses. It was a Singularity podcast. Go back and listen to it. And I talk about that. I mean, it is important to culture and civilization and things like that, what the music that we're listening to. But, I mean, most of the time, it's not that important, and not important enough anyway to, like, change your life and make you, like, drive your car different. Make you hold your fork different when you're eating. It's not going to happen. It's not going to make you go to the hospital and get a COVID test. At least not for me anyway. I would imagine that's how it is for most people. But, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm delusional or something. You know what? I'm going to get a sip right now of my coffee. I'm drinking a nice hot cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and I am not sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts, by the way, for all of you out there who are wondering. No, I just like their coffee. Everybody in New England likes Dunkin' Donuts coffee for the most part, okay? It's like a cultural thing, but it is actually pretty damn good. So I'm going to take a sip. I suggest if you have a coffee with you right now, maybe you'll take a sip too. Hang on. Oh man, that's good. Good coffee today. I put a little bit of cinnamon in it. Oof. It just kind of kicks it up a notch, Very tasty. Hang on, I'm going to take another sip. So anyway, I got a kind of a weird story I'm going to tell you. I'm going to close out this podcast with this story. I can't talk too much longer today, but I'm going to tell you the story. So anyway, when my wife and I got married, we first got married, I had bought us both these little medallions, okay, these little medals, these little spiritual religious medals. I bought one for me and one for her. They were both different, and they were both like a necklace, so we would both have one to wear, okay? And we wore them since we were married. We never took them off. And eventually, like, one of the chains broke, and my wife's chain actually broke, or something went wrong with it. So I gave her my medal. I took her medal, and I just kind of kept it in my pocket. Like, every day, everywhere I went, no matter what I was wearing, no matter what I was doing, this little medal was in my pocket, And, we went back to Cleveland back in like September, I think it was. And when we got back from Cleveland, I realized that I had lost that medal, and it wasn't like a huge deal or something, but, because it's just a thing, it's just a metal thing, but, it was gold and it was nice and all that, but like it was, it's still just a thing, it's an item, but I felt so bad, that I had lost this medal, and I looked everywhere, okay? And when I say I looked everywhere, I'm telling you, when I lose something, it doesn't matter what it is, when I lose something or somebody around me loses something, I get like obsessed with finding it. It's like probably a form of OCD or something. I can't stop thinking about finding the thing that was lost until I find it, And for the past few months, man, I'm telling you, I felt heartsick. One, that I had lost this thing that had meant so much to my wife and myself, like kind of like this symbol, kind of like this thing from our marriage, from our wedding. But also because, I was so careful with it all the time. And then for one reason or another, I guess, I must have become reckless with it, and careless with it. Just because it maybe had been in my pocket for so many years. We're talking like 20 years, and I just felt so bad. And up until a couple weeks ago even, I was looking, Well, a couple weeks ago, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we were told we were going to have to do some unexpected traveling. And so the night before we were going to get on the plane, I'm down in my kitchen, my wife's in the bedroom, probably packing her suitcase or something, getting ready. And she comes into the kitchen like freaking out, like with her hand in front of her, closed, but like her fist in front of her. And she's like, I just want to make sure that this is really in my hand. And she opened up her hand, and there it was. There was the medal. I had thought maybe I had lost it like on the airplane, or maybe I lost it somewhere in Cleveland where we were walking around. I thought this thing was gone. I looked everywhere, okay? And my wife, obviously lives with me, so she knows that I obsess. I can't stop looking until I find it. And so she, drops it into my hand. And I'm just looking at it like, I can't believe you found this. I looked everywhere. And she's like, do you want to know where I found it? And I'm like, yeah, where did you find it? And she's like, it was sitting right on my bed. Yeah, it was sitting on my side of the bed, like on top of the blankets. It was just sitting there, right in the middle. I asked her, show me where you found it. Take me to the exact spot you found it. And, we go into the bedroom. She shows me it was on the bed right here. And I'm like, stunned, absolutely stunned, completely unexplainable. There is no rational explanation that I can think of, because it was sitting in a spot where I definitely would have seen it if it were there. I suppose there's the possibility of somehow it fell out of luggage or something, or maybe maybe my wife had hidden it from me. Maybe she's messing with me. I don't think so, though. She knew I felt pretty bad about it, and she was kind of sympathetic to that. She understood why I felt so bad, and I really felt bad. I gotta tell you, I really did. I didn't cry, but I was like I said, I was heartsick. I felt really like I had made a big mistake. I lost that thing, and I was careless, and I shouldn't be. I shouldn't take it for granted that it's in my pocket. I should make sure, take care of this thing, because it has meaning. It has meaning and value to me. And boy, did I learn that lesson when it was gone. So when she found it, I was just like, and it was, the night before we're going to get on a plane and fly, and I just, I don't know. You can make of it whatever you want, but I know. I don't need anybody to tell me. It's just one of those things that's unexplainable. It was mysterious. All of a sudden it's there. It's not the first time something like that has happened to me. There have been other times, but this is definitely the most recent and probably the most profound. So like I said, make of that whatever you will. I got the medal in my pocket right now, sitting here talking to you. It's in my pocket again. I thought it was gone forever. So I guess there's a little glimmer of hope for everybody, especially those of you out there, who have lost something, or you've lost someone, whatever it is, whoever it is. There's always that possibility that you'll find it once again. It's not lost. All is not lost. That is a pretty good statement, right? All is not lost. So, yeah, there you go. That's a podcast for today. I pulled this podcast out of thin air, folks. I had nothing really, to talk about. I had no notes. I had no research of anything, And, but I did want to come back to you. I did want to make a podcast for you, because it had been so long. I don't like to keep my happy innovators waiting for too long. So, anyway, with that, my happy innovators, so good to talk to you again. I hope that you guys are all doing well, enjoying the new year, 2022, getting all your stuff done, having some fun. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike Bostwick from Pipe Choir Records, signing off. And remember, folks, if you want to keep what you've got, you've got to give it away. Take it easy. Okay, all you happy innovators who were kind enough and generous enough with your time to hear some music, I have a song for you that has a story that's quite remarkable. Okay, kind of cool. Maybe about a month ago, my wife and I were walking through this store and we found this record player that they were selling on clearance for $17. Okay, a little portable record player kind of thing, you know, with a 1/4-inch output and input jack, and you know, like a modern day version of a record player, very small, portable thing, and $17. You know, you can't go wrong. And my wife and I have not listened to vinyl records in so long. Okay, I mean, we're talking probably 20 or 30 years, you know. But we have this huge collection of vinyl from when we were younger. So, you know, it's kind of all put away in boxes. It's, you know, buried somewhere in the house, you know. But we bought this record player and we had the idea like we would start listening to some of our old records again. Well, okay, so we come home with this record player, right? And my wife opens it up. It was really kind of like hers, you know, she really wanted it. But she pulls out this record, okay, from the very first band that I recorded with, okay? She had this little 7-inch vinyl record. It was red, you know, that my band Thumper Incorporated had put out on Smog Veil Records, okay? And what's cool about it is, okay, there's only 4 songs on this record, okay? But the very first song on the record was really technically the first pipe choir song ever, okay? Like, ever recorded, okay? And, I mean, I've told the story before in the past that, you know, I was in this band, I went to the studio with them to record this, you know, for this 7-inch that we were going to be releasing on this label, this underground punk rock label kind of thing. And, you know, while we were in the studio, I wound up befriending the studio engineer. We became friends, and, you know, he invited me over to his studio to just mess around in the studio, you know, making music and just recording it and having fun. So, you know, I did and all that, you know. Well, this vinyl record, this piece of music that starts off this little 7-inch that I have that we put out, was kind of done in the studio that night that the whole band was there, and it was kind of done like impromptu, okay? I was in the studio with my band and they were setting up their gear and all my stuff was already set up. I was ready to go, and they were kind of just tuning their guitars and plugging in their amplifiers and doing all that stuff, putting new strings on their guitars. So while they're doing this, right, I go over to this keyboard that they had in the studio. It was like an in-house keyboard, and, you know, I started to play it. You know, I just was like waiting, so I just started screwing around on this keyboard. Well, you know, it was one of those things where I was playing, just kind of fooling around, and the room got quiet, you know, and, you know, I kind of like look up from the keyboard, and everybody there was just watching me play, you know, and I think they were kind of shocked a little bit that I knew how to play a piano. but I'd been playing piano for as long as I'd been playing drums. So I thought they kind of knew that, but I guess they didn't. And, I'm sitting there playing and they stop and they're like, what was that? What is that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just made it up. I was just screwing around, and they're like, oh, dude, you got to put that on the record, man. And I'm like, really? You think so? And they're like, oh, yeah, record it. Can you do it again? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that again. So I did it. We recorded it. It was on the record. It was the song the piece of music. It's not even really a song. It's a short little thing, okay, that started the record. And, I hadn't forgotten about it or anything. I mean, I remember the whole situation. And, of course, I remember, that I was in a band that made a vinyl record. It was pretty cool. Like, wow, we really are going to make it, man. We're making a record. We're going to be famous, But that didn't happen. But so what I'm going to share with you right now is a recording, taken off that record player, into my studio of this piece of music that really was the beginning of my personal recording career, as a solo artist. It was a short little piece. I did it really quick, really simple, maybe even kind of a little bit corny. Okay, but I guess for posterity's sake, here it is. You'll hear it. And, they asked me to name the song, and, the name, okay, is Dordessa Kai. That's what I called it. D-O-R, D-E-S-S-A K-Y-E, Dordessa Kai. That's what I called it. And why I called it that? Well, probably there was a little bit of a Mission UK influence there. Maybe a little bit of Smashing Pumpkins, maybe. Dordessa, Dordessa Kai. I think that the Mission had a song called Shamara Kai. So I was kind of boosting that idea. And I mean, it was like they asked me to name it in like 5 minutes, and that's like what I came up with, So that's what you're going to get right here. The explanation, which is funny, this explanation that I've just done for this song is probably 3 times longer than the song itself. So I guess now's the time to stop talking and let you hear the music. But I hope you enjoy it. And like I said, for posterity's sake, this piece of music will now be, officially in a podcast that I've done. So it will exist somewhere out there in the ether for people to listen to or to reference, okay? So here we go. Dordessa Kai by Thumper Incorporated, or, really the origins of pipe choir. Whatever you want to call it. So enjoy, peace out, be safe, have fun. Here we go.